In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my visit to Glacier Bay on the Ruby Princess during my Alaskan cruise in June 2025. Glacier Bay was amazing. The day that we went, it was drizzly and cold and kind of what you expect when you go on an Alaskan cruise. But I was bundled up and I was excited to go and see all the beautiful sights during our visit to Glacier Bay. On the day that we visited Glacier Bay, we definitely needed to get an early start to our day. So I went out to the upper decks around 7 a.m. to start to see the view as we were going into the Glacier Bay area. I was in an interior cabin for this cruise, so I wasn't going to be able to see it from my cabin. So that's why I had to bundle up and go ahead and get right out there to be able to see it from the upper decks. Honestly, though, I think going and seeing the Glacier Bay area from the upper decks gives you a sense of the scale because you do have like the mountains on either side of you and you can get that almost 360-degree view. So I definitely recommend going up there, even if you do have a balcony cabin, just to get that experience. Now, Glacier Bay does have restrictions on how many ships can be in the area at one time. And so there is a permitting process for that. And Holland America and Princess Cruise Lines typically carry most of those permits. And so that's something, if you really want to go to Glacier Bay, you'll need to make sure that whatever itinerary you're on is scheduled to go in there because they do have to get those permits ahead of time. And because it's a national park, we were able to also have park rangers come aboard the ship. And because of that, we were able to talk to them and have them kind of give us some information about what we were seeing as we were going into Glacier Bay. If the weather is anything like the day that we went into Glacier Bay, you will definitely want to make sure you pack all of your layers. So I was quite bundled up for our visit. I had my cuddle duds on. I had a long sleeve shirt on over that. I had sweatpants over my cuddle duds. I had a fleece jacket, a winter jacket, a beanie. I was very cozy in all of my different layers. But because it was drizzly and cool that day, it definitely made it a more comfortable time to be out on the deck when I had all those extra layers on. And it is a scenic sailing day, so you'll definitely want to make sure that you're prepared to spend some extra time outdoors that day. And that's why having all that cozy clothes made sense for me. I didn't have a balcony room, so I wasn't going to be able to just pop in and warm up and go back out easily. So it was easier for me to just bundle up and go and spend all that time outdoors, since it is a longer period of time that you're going to be out there all at once. When it comes to cruising in Alaska, function is definitely going to be over fashion. So no one is going to judge all the layers that you have if you're mismatched, if you need to have all the warm clothes on, because people will just have their towels or their blankets wrapped around them when they're out there just to make sure they stay nice and cozy and get to enjoy that scenic view. Glacier Bay National Park is considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it features glacially carved fjords, as well as multiple tidewater glaciers, such as the Margerie Glacier, which we did see, and the Johns Hopkins Glacier, which we also did see. So you might be wondering, what is a fjord? Because I did not know prior to this trip. A fjord is a long, narrow sea inlet with steep, high cliffs on either side, formed when a glacier carves a U-shaped valley that subsequently becomes submerged by rising sea levels. And I looked up that definition. These were created by glaciers during the ice ages, which cut out deep, wide U-shaped valleys in the landscape. And so that allows the cruise ships to go through those fjords, but then you have the mountains right on either side. When you're entering the fjord while on a cruise ship, it really does feel epic. You have mountains on either side, and then depending on where you are in the fjord, sometimes you just feel like you're completely surrounded by the mountains. It's really just amazing and beautiful, and I can't just stress enough how much I really enjoyed that day. In our case, because it was a cooler weather day, the clouds were pretty low, so they felt like they were almost like hugging the mountains as we started into the inlets. And because they feel like they're so close, it's almost like you feel like you can reach out and touch the mountains. And part of that is just the scale. These are massive mountains. And so even though we might be further away from them, they feel like they're close because they're just so large. And then as we were passing through one area that was especially rocky, we could even see little mountain goats on that part of the mountain. They just look like little white specks almost, just like, moving along that mountain pass. But it was really cool for us to be able to see. And that was one of the things that the park rangers pointed out to us as we were going through that area. And as I said, it was beautiful, just feeling completely enclosed by these mountains as we made our way into Glacier Bay. It's quiet and there's just a certain stillness to the area because there aren't roads there. There weren't any like helicopters or anything like that in the area. So it just was nice and quiet and just pristine beauty. Glacier Bay is home to quite a bit of wildlife as well, especially because it is a national park and it's protected. And so while we did see those mountain goats, we were also looking for other forms of wildlife. Now, we were there a little too early to see bears on the shoreline. They were really just coming out of hibernation in early June as we passed through there. But we did spot some sea otters. They almost look like just tiny little dots floating by because they're pretty small. But you'd see them floating along and then all of a sudden they would just go underwater and disappear. So that was really fun to look for those. We did look for some whales. We didn't see any on our cruising, but there was some announcement that there were whales in the area. So they had to kind of keep the ship speed a little bit slower just to make sure that if there was a whale in the area that they could look for it. I think looking for whales is one of the best things that you can do if you have a balcony cabin on an Alaskan cruise, because there were many times where people could see them from their balconies. Now, timing breakfast on a scenic sailing day can be a challenge if you want to make sure you get all the best views in. So if you have a balcony cabin, you can have your room service breakfast delivered to your cabin and then you can just enjoy it, whenever you want to. Since I did not have a balcony cabin, I had to time my breakfast to make sure that I wasn't going to miss any of the prime glacier spotting. Now, one of the nice things is as you are going through the Glacier Bay area, the naturalist on board was also making announcements to let us know what we were seeing, what we should look for. And she did let us know that there was going to be a little break between a couple of the glaciers that we could see as we were going through that area. So I took that opportunity to dash down to the buffet and grab a quick breakfast. And because it was a chilly day and I was going to be outside a lot, I went ahead and had a nice hearty bowl of oatmeal with some dried fruit in it, and that really powered me through the rest of my day. If you got up super early and had breakfast before you went outside, or if you're just not a breakfast eater, they did have coffee stations throughout the upper deck area. So you could get a coffee beverage. They even had some adult mixers to add into your coffee beverage or hot chocolate if you wanted. So you could really kind of get your day started with something warm and maybe add a little cocktail mix into that. I did enjoy my breakfast with one of my cruise friends on the ship, and then we dashed out as soon as we were done because we did not want to miss what was coming up next, and that was the Margerie Glacier. The Margerie Glacier is a very large glacier, and it has that distinctive blue color, and it's just beautiful to see in person. You just think it can't really be that blue, but it really is. And we were lucky that the conditions were such that the ship was able to get a little bit closer to it. There weren't as many icebergs in the water, so we didn't have to keep our distance from the glacier as we would in some of the other days of the cruise. And it's kind of hard to gauge the scale of the glacier because you're half a mile, 2 miles away. Like you're pretty far away from it. And so, kind of understanding that the Margerie Glacier is about 30 stories tall. So it's huge. And then when you see, like in our case, there was a smaller boat that had an excursion on it that was able to get closer. And when you see that smaller boat, as it gets closer, it helps you to kind of get a sense of the scale of the glacier and just how large it really is. So you really spend the entire morning in Glacier Bay. It's a slow day. You're really just spending the time outside, just taking in those amazing views. But since you do start a little bit early and you maybe get a little tired being outside all morning in the cold, so I felt like that was just a great day for me to indulge in a nap after we left Glacier Bay. One of the nice things about having an interior cabin is you can always make it super dark. So it was very easy for me just to close my door, turn off all the lights, climb into my nice warm bed, and enjoy a little nap on that day. But that's not where my day ended. So I was able to rally after my nap and go back out onto the ship and go have my dirty martini at the Wheelhouse Bar, which was my kind of standard pre-dinner cocktail. And one of the things I really like about the Princess Cruises in Alaska is they really embrace that Alaskan spirit. And part of that is literal. They actually have some Alaskan distilled spirits on the ship at the various bars. And so you can get a drink made with a liquor that has been made in Anchorage. They also have several beers available that are from Alaskan breweries. So you can go ahead and absorb some of that local culture or feel by indulging in some of those drinks. Now, if alcohol is not your speed, but you're more of a dessert person, at about 8 o'clock in the Wheelhouse Bar, they also set up a hot chocolate station. And so they'll have hot chocolate and nice warm cookies. So if that's something that's more your speed, then you can come through there, go ahead and grab a hot chocolate and a cookie and get your sweets in for the night. One of the best parts of going through Glacier Bay on a cruise ship is that you get to enjoy a fully immersive, all-day experience. It isn't just a scenic sail by, you're not just dashing through. This was certainly a memorable day on the cruise. But don't worry, we still have plenty of Alaska yet to come. As we approach the halfway point in my cruise, I'll first revisit my excursion to the Hubbard Glacier, which I was able to get right up close to on a smaller excursion boat. And then we'll be checking out some of the next ports on the trip. Valdez and Seward were before we had yet another scenic cruising day through College Fjord. Want to see more of my Alaska trip? Don't forget to subscribe below so you'll see my upcoming videos in your feed. Thank you and safe travels.